There was a soft knock on the shoulder. At first, I thought it was my wife, but then I remembered that it was Monday, late in the day, and the knock was from someone else. I rolled over. It was Verena Jefferson, wife and co-owner of the antique store where I bought some furniture. She smiled at me. "Wake up, sleepyhead," she whispered. "It's already after 4. My husband will be back soon, and I need to open the store." I shuddered on the old sofa. "Verena, we... Not now, honey. You need to take a shower. We can't let you go home sweating, right? Verena, listen. No, not now. I need to get out front before my husband gets back. After you're dry and dressed, just go out the back door. See you on Thursday? Don't forget." Without giving me a chance to respond, she closed the door in the back and walked into the sales area. Oh, Jesus, I thought. What have I gotten myself into? All I wanted was to surprise my wife with a gift for her birthday. Marsha, my wife, likes antiques, and the Jeffersons had just what I needed. An antique set of chairs, actually a couch, and 2 chairs. They looked like they were hundreds of years old. I admit, Verena was unusual. Maybe 157 cm tall, short black hair, dark skin, probably around 40 years old, smelling great. She seduced me. This was only my second visit to their store. Last week I came and found 2 chairs. Verena told me about the corresponding couch. She said that it was located in another place, in a small warehouse. She was, what can I say, seductive. These eyes, these black, so alluring eyes. She smiled at me. She walked me into their back room to show me a photo, and within seconds, I found myself on the couch, then on the old single bed. She took off my shirt and pants and climbed on top of me before I realized what was happening. It's a lie. I knew. I was stupid. I then took the chairs and loaded them into my Ford Explorer, but she said the couch needed some additional work and I should come back again. So I'm back. The couch still wasn't ready. She seduced me again. Now I'm supposed to be back on Thursday. I cannot do it. Verena thinks she has a toy. However, if I don't come back on Thursday, I won't have a couch. But what if I go back? What should I do? I am a happily married man. I am Catholic. I love my wife. Why, Marsha and we have 4 children. I was as faithful as an old dog, at least until... Now what? I need to go home. The road was long and tiring. First from the city where the Jefferson store was located, then along the highway, onto the interstate, and finally along Route 12 to our community and home. I had a lot on my mind. What should I do? I just knew. Sooner or later, Marsha will suspect something. I felt terrible. What is wrong with me? I'm a good guy. I have a wonderful wife and a bunch of wonderful children. Marsha is simply the best. Marsha has always been a one-of-a-kind girl. I will say that I didn't just meet Marsha and fall in love. I found her. It happened completely by accident. I almost had to convince her to agree to meet me. Marsha was raised in the strictest sense of the word Catholic. One of Marsha's 6 siblings chose a life of religious service. When I first got lucky with her, she had already been accepted into one of the regional orders. She has been putting forward her candidacy for 2 years now. If I had been a couple of months later, she would have become a novice. Then I would never have had a chance. One day I met her by stupid chance. Luck? Luck? No greatest luck. Remembering. What a wonderful, happy coincidence. No, a real act of God. I have a phone number. I don't even remember who gave it to me. I was 21 years old and still in college. I called. We spoke. We called back and forth. She sounded very sweet, innocent, not my style at all. I remember her saying that she had just graduated from high school and was preparing for a life of ministry. We agreed to meet at the roundabout at the end of the bus stop near where she lived. I drove up, saw her, and almost immediately doubted her. I drove up, honked my horn, got out, and opened the passenger door. She slid inside. As soon as I walked in and took a good look, I knew it was a damn mistake. A big mistake. She had a damn cleft lip. Even now, as I pulled away from the side of the road, I remember wondering, how the hell am I going to get out of here? We haven't gone far. My awkwardness and her shyness took over. She asked if I could stop. I did so. She jumped out of the car and walked, then ran, somehow clumsily, as girls in long coats do. My first reaction was relief, but then there was something else. Regret, remorse, guilt. I jumped out of the car and another motorist almost tore my driver's door off. I ran out onto the sidewalk and shouted, "Hey, wait!" By then, she was already running. I was faster. I caught her and grabbed her by the shoulders, very roughly turned her around, and in a voice that somehow became an octave higher, I screamed, "Hey, wait!" "What?" Damn. She was crying. I didn't know what to do, so I pulled her towards me and hugged her. I remember she squirmed, but I held on. I placed the palm of my right hand on the back of her head, and she froze. Frozen. She was so small. This was our first contact and memories. This was over 15 years ago. From the moment it first appeared, it was one of the craziest courtships imaginable. I couldn't explain it then. I can't now. There was something there. Something or someone that I needed. I had to have. I lusted, pursued, and begged. She had parents, oh brother. Did she have parents? She had 4 older brothers, an older sister, grandparents, a whole extended family, all of whom were passionately protective of her. Even in my wildest imagination, I could not have dreamed this. It took me months. It was a long, grueling campaign. But I finally brought her to the altar. That's a completely different story, and I don't want to think about it. Not right now. My whole stomach is twisted into knots. I have broken my most solemn oath. She'll find out. She'll figure it out. I know she will do it. She will see it. I'm gone. God, I was a fool. I am back. I drove into the garage and checked that no one was looking under the tarp where I hid the chairs. I warned Marsha not to look, but childish curiosity. I fiddled around with the tarp for a bit and then went into the house. We have an attached garage connected to the main house through the laundry room. Then a small hall and kitchen. I heard Marsha. She sang softly. It sounded like something from ABBA. Something smelled nice. Spaghetti, maybe lasagna. The house was warm and cozy, as always. The way a house should be. A real home. As I entered, Marsha turned to me. She was holding a plate of homemade lasagna. She looked beautiful. Brown culottes, white apron tied in a bow at the back, beige button-down blouse, hair in a ponytail, tiny hands, delicate fingers, clear nail polish. Marsha rarely wore makeup. It is not necessary. Long eyelashes framed luscious green eyes. Bright red hair framed a perfect heart-shaped face. Her lips pursed as she began to sing, the last trace of the cleft almost invisible, at least to me. Almost done. Salad on the table. The garlic bread just came out. She placed the tray of lasagna on the counter and stood on her tiptoes for a kiss. I reached out to her. No perfume, no deodorant, just soap and Marsha. She's so tiny that even when she was raised as far as she could, I still had to lean down for a nighttime kiss. Not close enough to fully embrace me, I caught a glimpse of 2 tiny, perfect pear-shaped mounds through the soft fabric. Dark halos, 2 hard nipples whispered, "Touch me, kiss me." I felt a growing swelling, a little pain, a feeling of guilt. I had to look away. "Something smells good," I said. "Just took a shower," she said. I turned pale. Could she tell? No. She meant she took a shower. I grinned. "No food." She stepped back. "Fool, I meant myself. And remember, I taped our show last night. After dinner, we'll put the kids to bed, curl up and watch it." Now I feel lighter. She reached out for the food, but I grabbed her arms and spun her around, twisting her arms behind her back. What I saw: sparkling green eyes, blinking eyelashes, stud earrings with quarter-carat emeralds on perfect earlobes. My Christmas present from last year: long, thin neck, necklace, gold cross. "I need another one." I leaned in. "I need a kiss." She stood up. Warm, soft lips lightly brushed mine. Soft fingers caressed the back of my neck. Eyes filled with love captured my soul. Then, "Let go of my hands. You're hurting me." I kissed her again. She said again, "Let go." I let go. "You're such a squirrel." Pushing aside an unruly strand of amber, she took the plate in her hands and used it to push me aside. "Don't be so weird. Take the garlic bread and bring it here." Like a hummingbird, she darted past me into the dining room. As soon as I took the bread out of the oven, the children rushed inside. Jaime was first, 14 years old, intellectually far ahead of his age, a natural leader, built like a horse. He was followed by 10-year-old Wilson and 7-year-old Alan, a copy of his older brothers. The last one to enter was 5-year-old Meadow. The boys all looked like me, strongly built, with brown hair. Meadow was like her mother, small, red hair, freckles, and shy. As always, I pushed past the boys and picked up my daughter. "How's my baby today?" Hugging me. She wrapped her arms around my neck. "I love you, Daddy." Looking around, she added, "Did you bring me anything?" I hugged her tightly. "Hey, you have me." I got a kiss. The boys rushed to the table. Wilson exclaimed, "Let's eat." Jaime pushed him away. "Mom first." We all stood and waited for Marsha, Queen of the Realm, to find her seat. This happened every evening. Boys, restless and loud. Meadow is quiet and, like her name, soft and gentle. Everyone knew that she was my favorite in some way, but no one objected. I had my boys. They were for me, just like their mother was mine. Little baseball, soccer, lacrosse, fighting with our dog. I was Dad. Oh, dog, I almost forgot. We have a Labrador retriever named Brandy. Brandy is technically Marshy, but I always take her to the vet, clean the backyard, and walk her when she runs out of the yard. Brandy is 7 years old. We all sat down at the table, listened to Mom say a prayer, and then got down to business. Marsha is a great cook, the best. God, how I adore her. I looked from her to my boys. How can someone so small create such big children? I thought about Verena. What a witch. Who was I? After finishing dinner, we helped the children do their homework. I helped Meadow with words, Mom helped the boys with math. We put the children to bed. Marsha and I settled in and watched our show. This was another distinguishing feature. What else would a woman who almost became a nun watch? We cuddled on the couch for 2 hours. Of course, I loved this closeness, but for Marsha, these were the most special times. After the film, we went to bed, but sex was prohibited. Oh, we hugged and kissed, but Marsha has her own cycle. We are Catholics, don't forget. No protection, no diaphragms, no pills, just the natural order of life. By 11 o'clock, Marsha curled up and fell asleep. I lay there, hugging my beloved, looking at the ceiling. I need to call Verena. No more. That's exactly what I meant, nothing more. I got up early and left, had to go to the office and then to court. I was involved in a very important matter. An unmarried mother's toddler received inadequate medical care during a medical emergency. At the hospital, they thought they would get out of something. Never. This was important. Much money. I'm not chasing an ambulance. But the hospital was negligent. They were expecting it. My wife and child were waiting for it. I knew this melody. Local hams would deride it as just another frivolous lawsuit. Well, damn, it wasn't them. It wasn't one of their children. Plus, they always had insurance. This poor dumb mother had nothing. Nothing until our law firm got involved. Oh, the talking heads might rant and rave about rising insurance premiums, hospital shortages, and outrageous malpractice fees. But this mother and her child had rights. After my day in court, I tried to call Verena, but the call went to voicemail. I wanted that chair, but I definitely didn't want another turn with this woman. I had a wife and family. I was a happy man. Verena was a mistake. We were back in court. We're going to win this. I checked my watch, 15 hours. Still haven't reached Verena. I drove to the back entrance of the antique store, got out and knocked on the door. A gentleman came to the door. "Are you Gary Blackwell, here to pick up the couch?" "Yes, sir," I replied. "It is I." "The Jeffersons aren't here, but they left us to help you with the thing." Another person came through the door. He was carrying a couch. "Where should you put it?" I walked him to the back of my car, opened the back door, and he carefully slid it inside. The first person came up with a list on the board. "Sign here, please." I signed and nodded in thanks. As I headed towards the driver's door, the second man said, "Oh, and one more thing." He punched me in the stomach. Another man grabbed me by the tie and threw me against the not yet opened door. He pulled my jacket around my hand so that I could not resist, and in a very businesslike tone said, "Mr. Jefferson has a message for you." He was about to kick me again when the first man pulled him back. "No, we were only told to beat him up a little. Give him the envelope." The second man tossed me a manila envelope while the first man opened my car door. Together they pushed me inside. The first man said, "Now get out of here." I felt bad at heart. My head hurt. My chest was throbbing. My trousers and shirt were torn. I didn't waste a second. He put the key in the ignition, started his SUV, released the handbrake, and drove out of the alley. I drove as fast as I could until I felt I was far enough away from these people and this store. I stopped. Breathing heavily, he opened the manila envelope. No. Jesus, no, I should have known. A store like that, one in the city center, in that area? Of course, the place was under surveillance. Mr. Jefferson, protecting himself from possible burglars, installed a CCTV system throughout the premises, including their back room. I looked at myself and Verena Jefferson. She was on my lap. Of course, it was only a photo, but there could be no doubt. Deeper in the envelope, I found a DVD. I didn't need to talk. How could I be so stupid? I put my head down on the steering wheel and started crying, "This can't be happening! What have I done?" Then it dawned on me. What if... Oh no, God, no, don't let that be true. I needed to go home. Oh, Marsha. Now what? What can I say? She never... Oh God, oh Jesus, my children, my wife, my family. I ruined everything. Please, oh please. I drove as fast as possible. I needed a story. Okay, I stopped at 7-Eleven for coffee, and a guy, no, 2 guys tried to steal my car. I fought with them. It could have worked. I arrived home, drove straight into the garage, got out, took a deep breath, it hurt, and entered through the laundry room, as always. I smelled dinner, roast beef, one of my favorite foods. Didn't matter. Look at me, what have I done? As soon as I entered the kitchen, Marsha saw me. She rushed towards me. "Gary, what happened? Let me take off your jacket." She turned towards the dining room and shouted, "Jaime, Wilson, come here, now!" A second later, my 2 older sons were at my side, helping me up the stairs. Alan stood at the threshold, staring at me. Meadow, standing behind him, looked scared. Marsha, walking behind the boys, asked, "Who did this? I'll call the police." I muttered, "It looked like an attempted carjacking. No need to worry." Quietly, my sons helped me to our bedroom. Marsha was in the bathroom, wetting and wrung out towels. She looked at Jaime. "Go downstairs, lower the oven. Set your brothers and sister up in the living room." Thank God for Jaime, I thought. Marsha pulled back the blanket. "I'll get you some treatment." "Where does it hurt?" "It looks like you got kicked." "God, Gary, we need to get you to the ER." "No, okay, I just need a rest." She looked at me skeptically. "Gary, oh, Gary. Over a car? You could have been killed." She knelt down next to me, tears in her eyes. "That was so stupid." "Oh, dear. Oh, my darling." She pressed her hand to my cheek. She leaned over and kissed me. I felt disgusted. The doorbell rang. I heard it. Marsha, too. Downstairs, one of the boys must have opened the door. A second later, Jaime shouted upstairs. It was some man. He left a folder. He said it was for you, Mom. Marsha stayed next to me, but call it down. Did you thank the man? Bring what he left here. I cowered, and not from the beating. Marsha wiped my forehead with her fingertips. Oh, honey, we need to get you to the hospital. Jaime came in with a folder. He gave it to his mother. I knew what it was. In my head, they were screaming, "Put it down, don't open it." Marsha must have read my mind. She put the envelope on the nightstand. I breathed a sigh of relief, unless, if only she hadn't opened it. If only she'd left it on the nightstand. Maybe I could have picked it up later. Marsha leaned over and pressed her gentle hand to my cheek. She kissed me. Try to get comfortable until I put the kids to bed. I'll take you to the hospital. As she stood up to leave, she turned to the envelope. There was curiosity on her face. It was addressed to her. She touched him lightly. He looks formal. I wanted to scream, "Stop!" She picked it up again and headed towards the door, opening the envelope as she went. She shouted down to her son, Jaime, "Jaime, I—" Stopping mid-sentence, she turned to me, frozen as stone. The expression on her face, I knew. "Marsha, I—" My wife turned and quietly closed the bedroom door. She slowly walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. She nervously fiddled with the envelope. She looked at me. No tears, no anger. Just tears. Face gray as death. She whispered, "Who is she?" "Nobody. She's the woman where I bought the chairs and the couch. She was silent. She just kept looking back and forth between me and what I now realized was my death sentence. Despite the pain in my side, I clumsily climbed up to her. I hugged her. "It was a mistake. I made a mistake." Marsha didn't resist. She whispered, "She looks old. She looks old." Finally, she looked at me. "Gary, why?" Was I trying to sound comforting? It didn't work. "I don't know. It just happened." Marsha rested her head on my shoulder, then pulled away. Continuing to look at these terrible photographs, she whispered, "We need to take you to the hospital." Avoiding eye contact, she stood up, turned to the door, opened it again, and called down, "Jaime, I'm taking Dad to the hospital. Be a man and keep an eye on things while we're gone." She walked over to her dresser, stuffing an envelope in the top box, turned to me and, taking a deep breath, said, "Please put on something. I'll take you to the hospital." I was completely confused. It was Marsha in classic caring mode. "Honey, please." She didn't look at me. She stepped towards the door. "I'll be downstairs." She walked through the door, leaving it ajar. I got dressed and followed her. The ride to the hospital was silent. It was after midnight when we finished. I had one cracked rib and a few minor bruises, nothing serious. When we got home, Jaime was still awake, but the others were already in bed, not sleeping, just lying there. In the living room, Marsha, stroking our son's tousled hair, said, "Well done, my boyfriend." I added, "Well done, son. Now go to sleep." Before leaving, he asked, "Are you okay, Dad?" I said, "Yes, everything is fine." He looked at his mom. "And you?" "Go to bed, Jaime. School is tomorrow." Marsha was a volunteer at St. Timothy's, where our children went. We chose St. Timothy's because it was one of the few coeducational Catholic schools in the area. She played the piano and helped with preschoolers. She looked at me. "You go to bed too. I'll come back later." I needed her to be with me. "Marsha," she replied, "just go to sleep." She didn't get up. The next morning, when I came downstairs, she was already in the kitchen, packing lunches, getting everything ready for our kids, and frying my eggs. When I walked in, she handed me coffee, placed a plate of fried eggs on the table, and asked, "How's business going?" I took a sip of coffee. "Okay, I think we'll win." Then asked, "Do you have any plans? Besides school, I mean." She leaned back on the sink. "I think I'll go see Mom and Dad later." I tried to control myself, but I cringed internally. Marsha's dad was a retired police officer, Captain Keith Fitzgerald. His two sons followed suit. Her mother was a classic Irish housewife. They loved all of their children, but Marsha was always special. The last child, a late child, was born a little premature, and with her specialness, it was to be their gift to God, before she agreed to marry me. They were good to us, especially to me. They loved our children as much as they loved all of their grandchildren, but Marsha's decision to get married was a small disappointment nonetheless, and I knew that deep down, they were offended by me. Her father never trusted me. Her brothers and mother politely tolerated me. Only her sister. And now this. I whispered, "Darling, maybe—" "No," she said. "I need to see Mom and Dad." "Okay," I said. I was in a fog all morning in court. My colleagues noticed, but I had a different problem. She will talk to her parents and ask for advice. God, I hoped. Still, I had to think of something. I arrived home a little after 6, brought flowers. Marsha was cooking another roast in the oven. I could tell she was crying. The children were all upstairs, doing homework or playing, I hoped. Marsha tried to smile. How was your day? I replied. We forced them. They know it too. Now it's more a question of how much and for how long. Gary, she said. Yes, darling? Do you mind if I sleep downstairs for a few nights? Oh, Marsha. No, I need to be alone. I need to be alone for a few nights. I have a lot on my mind. I replied, No, I'll sleep downstairs. You stay in bed. She tilted her head to the left. I heard a quiet sob. No, it's the bed. I need to sleep down here. I nodded. Okay, if you say so. She said, I think so. That night at the dinner was a dark one. The children knew something was wrong. Meadow's eyes looked big and full of tears. The boys just looked from me to their mom and back to me again. Marsha spent that first night on the living room couch, and the next, and the next, and the next after that. Dinner became increasingly gloomy. I didn't know what to do, but I had to do something. On Saturday afternoon, I went to see Marsha's parents. Her mother saw me and disappeared into the kitchen. Mr. Fitzgerald invited me into the dining room. Well, Gary, what are you going to say in your defense? She told you. He nodded. Mr. Fitzgerald, I made a mistake. I can't explain it. I can't understand what I did, but I know it was the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm so sorry. I know that I hurt her. I just don't know what to do. His face expressed nothing, but suddenly he said, she was with the lawyer. No, she couldn't. His response was cold. Gary, she's terrified. I've never seen her like this. Divorce? No. But her lawyer mentioned something about a separation agreement. You're moving out. I was speechless, crushed. Not Marsha, not my Marsha, not this. Mr. Fitzgerald, I need your help. Tell me what to do. His response was ice cold. You should leave. I realized that he was on the verge. Another word from me and I would have found myself on the floor. I replied, I'll do whatever she wants, but you have to understand. It happened. It will never happen again. He clenched his teeth. Emotions, like cracks in a crumbling wall, burst out. Looking down and turning away, he muttered, barely audible, Don't ever do that again. Looking up at me, he looked old. I received a desperate look. Go. Just leave. Go home. Yes, sir, I said. I stood up, turned to the door, and went outside. Mrs. Fitzgerald was on the porch waiting for me. She came and touched my hand. Never one for eloquence, she began. Gary, Marsha, it's, history. You weren't like others. Well, people. You were, and she. Oh, Gary, you know that she was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Gary, come home, Gary. Marsha, you have to fix this. I knew what she meant. I went down the steps and got into the car. I remembered that first time. I remembered Marsha. That first time. I remember that I didn't think she was beautiful. Not beautiful at all. That lip, her nose, everything was wrong. I held the back of her head in my hand. I used her hair to lift her head. Eyes, green eyes, red hair. No, she was beautiful. Very beautiful. If only I didn't have to look at that damn lip, her left lip. Yes, that's what was wrong. That angry red line from her lip to her nose was just taking over my eyes, pushing me away from the rest, the freckles, the cheeks, her hair, my God, that hair, and those eyes. I looked away and looked deeper into her eyes. Jesus, she looked at me, and she knew. So you are Marsha. She started fidgeting again. Okay, you looked, so let me go. No way. Do you remember my name? Gary. Gary is something. Blackwell. Blackwell is an asshole. She began to struggle harder. I didn't let go. Yes, it's me. Gary is a jerk. So when will you agree to meet me? I thought, am I crazy? She really tried to break free. If you don't let go, I'll scream. Without letting go, I said, I can't do this. How about you agree to go to McDonald's with me? We'll get a burger or something. That's the least you we can do. We're a little, let's talk and then I'll take you. How's that? Why are you doing this? You see, I loosened my grip a little and she seemed to relax. Yeah, I see. But on the phone when we were talking, I thought we were getting along. She replied, it was a mistake. I got angry. I remember thinking, the hell? If any of my friends saw me with her, damn. I said, look, I'm not asking you to marry me. Damn it, it's just a damn burger. She winced. Not only are you an asshole, you're also a rude asshole. She was right. I was probably the last, worst person she should have been seen with. Not only me seeing her, but she is with me. I truly was a disgusting person. Looking at her and seeing the way she looked at me made me see what a jerk I was. I said, okay, sorry, I said a bad word. Well, how about this? Just a nasty cola, that's all. Then I'll take you. She gave in. Okay, just soda. I walked her back to my car. All the way, I thought about my best friend, or almost my best friend, who recently died in a car accident. He was driving a Stingray and ran a red light. He crashed into a pole. They said the car simply exploded. His body was horribly mutilated. I was one of the executioners at a closed casket funeral. Yes, but it wasn't his death that made me think. Not about his death. That was what I agreed to do. A good friend of mine had a girlfriend. She really loved him. She got pregnant from him. She didn't want an abortion. She wanted to get married. He didn't say yes or no. Then he started thinking. He started discussing it with his friends. Guys like me. One by one, we agreed that if he told her no and she insisted, we would all say we slept with her too. My friend thought it would make her look bad if we did all this and she would back down. Nobody thought about DNA back then. It was 1998 and we were too stupid. He even thought that she might become so desperate that she would kill herself. Anyway, my friend thought his problem would be solved, but then he died. That was the type of guy I was. The type of guy who would lie about a good girl to get his no-good friend out of trouble. It was 1998. Now I was older, and I was taking this cleft-lip girl into my car to take her to McDonald's. I told McDonald's so we wouldn't have to get out of the car. There was no way I wanted to be seen with her. Jesus. If this was 1998, I would probably laugh at her and call her some stupid name. Then I would laugh even harder if she cried. Hell, I could have done this a couple of months ago. But now, no, maybe not. So we went to McDonald's. When I got home, Marsha was in the kitchen. I smelled something, possibly oysters. I walked in and immediately realized that she knew I was with her father. I sat up. I saw your dad. I know, he called me. I didn't know you went to a lawyer. Marsha sat for what seemed like 10 minutes, tears in her eyes, but maintaining her composure. She told me, I talked to Helen. She has a room if you want. You want me to leave. Helen's house is nearby. I could leave the kids with her. You could come over when I'm not home. My stupid pride took over. No, I think I'm better. Marsha interrupted. No, Helen's house is a good place. You'll be there if I or the kids need you. I might want to come over too. It'll be good for Helen too. I understand. I was expelled, but not quite completely. I replied, well, Helen and I always got along, and after Brian died, she was pretty lonely. I think I could move there and then be here if something happens. Helen was Marsha's closest sister. Her husband, Brian, died of Hodgkin's disease some time ago, and she is still recovering from it. She had a little son, Marion, barely 5 years old, a good boy who missed his dad. Concerned, I added, Marsha, we don't have to do this. Maybe we could... She interrupted me again. No, that's better. You should move in with Helen. When do you want me to leave? After dinner today. What about the children? They already know. Jesus, she told the children. Should I stay tonight and leave after Mass tomorrow? Not today. I needed help. I needed someone to talk to. I needed advice. I replied, well, apparently, so be it. Marsha stood up and turned to the pan on the stove. We're having one of your favorite dishes, fried oysters. That's how I felt, fried and more oysters. That's nice. Dinner was like a funeral. Nobody said anything. After we ate, the children disappeared. Marsha must have told them to hide somewhere after dinner. I cleaned the pan while Marsha loaded the dishwasher. I needed to say something. I ended up saying the same damn things I did before. Marsha, it didn't mean anything. I know. Honey, it didn't mean anything. I don't know how it happened, Ned. It was just like nothing. I can't explain it. You already told me. Honey, should I really go? Should I really go? Yes. Marsha, please? Helen's house is a good place. I stood still. I couldn't cry. I didn't want to cry. I refused to cry. I started crying. Marsha finished loading the dishwasher. You should get your things now. I did all the laundry. Don't forget your toiletries. Helen knows you're coming. Oh, and leave your house key on the table. My home key? Leave it on the table. You won't need it. Plus, you know where we hide the spare key outside. If there's an emergency, you'll have one. But my home key? My key? Just leave him. What could I do? She caught me. She had photographs. I didn't deny anything. She wanted me to leave. It made sense. The kids needed her more than I did. All I did was pay the bills and serve as a playmate. In any case, it wasn't like a real divorce. Not really like that anyway. Just a separation. We would live separately. I would be cut off, not sex. That didn't matter. I would be cut off from her, from my children, from my life. This couldn't be... But it happened. After dinner, I left. The first days were terrible. While I was leaving, I thought, she said I could come every night, but not for dinner. I chose after. I thought maybe we could, but I realized it didn't work. Marsha would just go to her room while I was there. Those evenings were terrible. Meadow cried when I came and cried when I left. Jaime didn't talk to me. Wilson and Alan were doing the same thing as him. After the first few times, the boys just went upstairs to their mom. So it was just me and Meadow. How many times can you watch Frozen? Helen was kind to me. She was still lonely. Her little son needed someone. She put me in the spare bedroom. Brian was a good provider. She had good life insurance. Her mortgage was paid off. Better medical care. With the part-time job she found, plus Social Security for Marion, Helen was able to make ends meet. While being cautious about what Marsha might do, I was careful not to be too generous with my money for Helen. However, I did my part. The days seemed like an eternity. Helen and I talked a lot. In fact, we talked a lot. No, we really did. She didn't ask many questions, but she talked. She told me that Marsha was definitely going for a legal separation. Helen said Marsha just couldn't understand what I did. Helen said she cried most of the time. We also talked about other things. Marsha was the youngest of 6. Before Marsha, Helen was the youngest. Marsha's unexpected birth, coupled with her deformity, threw the Fitzgerald household into chaos. First, Helen told me how she hated her sister when she was first born. She was a baby, and now suddenly she was just another child. One evening, while Helen and I were killing time, she told me what had happened. Helen thought her parents felt guilty, first for having what they thought were too many children, but worse for how their last child had been so disfigured. Helen said that she later realized her parents never wanted Marsha, and when she showed up, she was so bad. I saw the photographs, but Helen showed them to me again. They were terrible, my poor Marsha. Helen told me about other things I never knew about. Although Mr. Fitzgerald was a police officer and they had excellent insurance, it never fully covered everything. They were doing well with 5 kids, but then Marsha came along and the problem and the money. It appears there were surgical options for Marsha's deformity and there were multiple surgeries. The Fitzgeralds had to make difficult choices. It was like, do this and she'll be really good, or do that and she'll be not so good. The difference has always been money. The Fitzgeralds had difficult decisions to make, and Marsha was just a baby, prima at that. There were never any guarantees. And now I'm here, at work, things were going well for a single mother and her child. The rest of my workload wasn't much of a problem. It was difficult for me to sleep. When and where will I be summoned to court? What will I do? Will she really do it? Maybe she won't. It's Marsha, damn it. She won't like to hear this, using the Lord's name in this way. What am I doing? I turned to a friend who was doing similar things. He wasn't useful to me. He said that no matter what, I would be shown in an unfavorable light. He warned me that if Marsha sued me at work, it would be like the kiss of death. It was then that Helen came up to me and said she wanted to talk. It was a stressful conversation, and it took over everything for days. Helen found me in her laundry room fixing a clogged trap. "Gary, can I ask you something?" I immediately stopped. "Sure, whatever. Besides that time, at the antique store, have you ever done something like that, "No, Helen, never. Never even thought about it." "Then why, Gary?" Suddenly, I became very nervous. Helen asked me this because Marsha wanted to know. Of course I did. I stood up and put down the wrench. For some reason, I got scared. What could I say? What if I say something wrong? I knew I had to be honest. If I lied or said something stupid, and Helen told Marsha, she would find out. I replied, "I don't know why. I just don't know. I guess I could say I was tired, or stressed from work, or somehow angry about something." But none of that was true. In fact, I felt pretty good, even cheerful, a little at least. Was that woman some kind of siren? No, she was completely ordinary. On the street, I wouldn't even give her a second glance. I remember thinking about how Marsha would love the chairs, and then this woman was on top of me. It happened, it all started so fast. Believe me, Helen, if I had known, if I had the answer, I would have... Well, Helen shrugged. Okay. Then, rather as an afterword, she added, "Oh, and thanks for fixing the siphon." Then she left. Thinking back, again, I think about Marsha and me, our courtship, our first date. Marsha was also quite ordinary. Well, the lip, that ugly red line, and the way her nose isn't quite... Well, our first date wasn't really a date. That day we went to McDonald's. We talked for over an hour. Once I got past her peculiarity, Marsha turned out to be really interesting. For someone with such a problem, she had a melodic little voice, kind of squeaky. She reminded me of a hummingbird. She told me that she was going to become a nun. I was a Catholic and associated with nuns. I never thought of them as real people. They were either uncommunicative or too enthusiastic and clingy. But that was probably my opinion. In a sense, I saw Marsha becoming a nun. She'll never have to worry about dating or boyfriends or any of that stuff. But that day, in a different way, I thought that her becoming a nun would be some kind of loss. Even then, the troglodyte that I was, I think I saw her as a mother. We talked, but instead of just taking her home, I offered to take her home. Wow, what a mistake that was. Mr. and Mrs. Fitzgerald had a schedule, and Marsha was late. Silly me, I walked her to her door. She walked to the door, and her father opened it. Mr. Fitzgerald opened the front door, smiled at Marsha, and stared at me. Looking at her, he said, "You are late. Who is this?" First day, first trip to the house, and I learned that little Miss Marsha had a kinky side. She smiled at me, looked at her father, and said, "He's the reason I'm late." Damn, I thought, this man is going to kill me, but he didn't. He smiled at Marsha again, stared at me and said, "Thank you," and slammed the door in my face. Well, damn, I thought, but before I could turn around, the door opened again. It was Marsha. She reached out and tugged on my arm and started pulling me inside, saying, "This is Gary Blackwell. He took me to McDonald's." That's when I realized that she had brothers, many of them, 4 of them. They were all bigger than me, and I wasn't a shrimp. Pulling me inside, Marsha said, "This is my dad." I shook his hand. "This is Ryan." I shook his hand. Robert, another hand, John, more hands, and Stephen. The last handshake was the worst. I realized that I had been put in my place. Then I met Helen. God, how perfect she was. I eagerly shook her hand. While her brothers assessed me from head to toe, her father dismissed me. "Nice to meet you, Gary. Come see us again." I protested. "I will." I was actually going to ask Marsha out on a date, but Had I made a mistake? Father looked angrier than ever. The Brotherhood was ready to attack, but Marsha was glowing with all of herself. With her lip and all, she gave me one damn beautiful smile. Call me later. To further irritate my father and boys, I smiled back. Later tonight? She smiled again, at the usual time. As the door was closing, I heard her, "Old man, what is this normal time?" I remember I was jumping. I really was jumping, back down their path to my car. Was I stupid? Wake up. Helen spoke again. This time, we were in her backyard, and I was sharpening her lawnmower. How many times have you, well? Oh, this, I thought. I replied, twice. I made 2 visits. That's what's so bad. The first time really scared me. The second time I thought I could. Helen's look was devastating. She looked like Marsha the night of the photos. Helen, help me. I don't know what to do. I love her so much. I just want... She's really hurt, Gary. It's like everything has changed. She looked down at the lawnmower. You shouldn't have do this. I returned the file to my hand and held it for a second. Helen, you need to help me. She looked at the grass. Marsha is my sister, my little sister. Then she looked at me, her expression changed. You really ruined everything, Gary. You don't understand what you did. You just don't understand. She turned and left. I was given a summons, and it was at work. I was supposed to bring my lawyer and meet with the arbitrator at the end of the month. Hell, I didn't even have a lawyer. I tried calling Marsha, but she didn't answer. Jaime answered. He told me that her lawyer told her to tell me to call him. I called Marsha's representative. He wasn't very helpful. He said I should have known. I called my colleague who warned me, and he found someone. Arbitration. We arrived at her lawyer at about 10 shack in the morning. I didn't sleep at all, tired, too much coffee, bags under my eyes, the usual signs of fatigue. Some time has passed. I only took 3 suits with me when I left, and they were already starting to look pretty shabby. I started wearing twice as many shirts, then 3 times as often, and only took 4. Ties, socks, and underwear. Well, Marsha always took care of that. I couldn't ask Helen, and she didn't offer. I knew I needed a haircut. I started growing a beard. I stopped drinking when I got married, total abstinence. But recently I started again. Still lost almost 10 pounds. Nothing fit right. They didn't talk much at work, but ever since they found out I moved, everyone tried to avoid me. Everyone met my wife. I became an outcast in the office, so we met. My lawyer and I arrived at their office right on time. They still made us wait in the conference room for about 30 minutes. They couldn't be that stupid. I was a lawyer. Then Marsha and her advisor entered. I almost shit myself. My stomach was churning and my nerves were going through the roof. I kind of thought Marsha would look as tired and miserable as I did, but she looked good. No, she looked great, wearing a loose lime-colored mini dress that matched her eyes, a cotton blazer of the same color, brown 2-inch heels, her hair pulled back into a long pixie cut, slightly to the side, no bangs, but neatly combed across her forehead. She put on a little weight, put on a little makeup, eyeshadow, pale lipstick. She had pierced ears and wore jade earrings, something like a crescent moon. What a transformation. I swallowed. She looked better than Emma Stone. No, better than Emma Stone. My lawyer gave me the usual warning about talking. It didn't matter. I needed to say something. Oh my God, Marsha, you look beautiful. She blushed but didn't say anything. Her lawyer, an older, very respectable man, whom I have heard of, a real shark in such matters, smiled at me. We were there with the arbitrator, a woman who came with my wife and her lawyer, not a good sign. The arbitrator smiled at me and my lawyer. This is an informal meeting. We are here to discuss Mrs. Blackwell's desire for a formal separation agreement. Is everyone okay with this? My lawyer nodded in agreement. Yes, I interrupted. It was stupid, I know. Marsha, can't we just go somewhere and talk? The arbitrator interrupted me. That's what we're here for. She turned to my wife and her lawyer. Would you like to start? My wife's lawyer began. Mrs. Blackwell is seeking this separation agreement because after his infidelity, she feels uncomfortable around her husband, but doesn't know if she's ready to think about divorce. Yet. I died inside. Divorce. He said it. He remarked, but continued. Mr. Blackwell has caused my client very serious suffering and pain and terrible emotional anguish. He has violated their prenuptial agreement, caused Mrs. Blackwell incredible sadness, and shirked his parental responsibilities. My lawyer smiled and nodded, but I intervened. Wait a minute. I don't... My wife's lawyer interrupted me. Have you engaged in sexual relations outside of your marriage? Yeah, but you've moved out of the house. But she asked. The arbitrator looked from me to my lawyer to my wife and her lawyer. Is all this correct? My lawyer confirmed with a nod. I said, yes, but... The arbitrator waved her hand, discouraging me, and turned to my wife's lawyer. Are you looking for an indefinite section? At least 6 months, he said. I choked. 6 months. Marsha started to say something, but her lawyer put his hand on hers. He added, it may take longer. My client needs to decide what she should do. I am a lawyer. I had a lawyer with me. I knew the rules. It didn't matter. I jumped up from my seat. No, Marsha, come on. I was jumping from foot to foot as if I needed to go to the toilet. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I extended my hand across the table. Marsha! She retreated. My Marsha has retreated from me. The arbiter tapped her nails on the tabletop. Mr. Blackwell, please sit down. My lawyer tugged at my jacket sleeve. Gary. I looked across the table at my wife and her lawyer. Honey. Marcia, looking away, finally said, sit down, Gary. I sat down. My wife's lawyer continued, we are willing to continue to allow reasonable visits with children, and we are open to consultation. We were thinking about 5 sessions. I knew the deal. I knew even earlier. My lawyer discussed this with me. 5 sessions is the minimum. 5 sessions usually means that decisions have already been made, and we are getting closer to the end game. My lawyer smiled. Again, we were thinking about 10. His lawyer smiled back. 5. Then the arbitrator smiled too. Based on my notes, 5 sessions sounds quite reasonable. If changes occur, more can be added later. Her notes, I thought. This was not arbitration. It was a lynching. I looked, I think, pleadingly at my lawyer. He ignored me and said, okay, 5. And that was all. We agreed on a standard visiting procedure, 1 evening a week and alternating weekends. I will continue to pay all expenses. Alimony was not officially discussed. I was expected to do my duty. Marsha was given an additional bill for expenses beyond what she normally received. When I asked about this, her lawyer mentioned something about social costs, nannies, clothes, cosmetics, and gasoline. When I asked if this meant Marsha would be going out on dates, her lawyer said Marsha might need to stretch her legs sometimes. Stretch your legs? Is she leaving me? I said, I'd like to start these counseling sessions as soon as possible. When can we start? Marsha looked at me, but after my comment, she looked away. Looking at her lawyer, she said quietly, I'd like to wait. Our referee looked worried. Normally we want to move pretty quickly, but if you prefer... My wife chimed in. I need time to think first. Maybe in a few weeks? A few weeks, I exclaimed. Oh my God, Marsha. I looked like I'd been out of the house forever. I want to go home. The arbitrator turned to my lawyer, and then to me. I think we'll let Marsha set the timetable for this. I looked at my wife. I tried to look as pathetic as possible. Marsha, darling, please. She didn't look at me. The arbiter looked back at Marsha and her lawyer. Let's say we'll take a 10-week break. I have a list of good consultants. Still looking at my wife and never looking at me. You can check their references and schedules. When you decide, we will set a schedule. Finally, my lawyer said something. 10 weeks is a really long time, and in my experience, both parties are involved in selecting consultants. The arbitrator looked at my wife. She shook her head vigorously in denial. The arbiter smiled and turned to her. There is always room for compromise. Let's say a 5-week break, and you choose a consultant. Marsha was still shaking her head no. The arbitrator suggested 8 weeks then? Marsha looked from her lawyer to the arbitrator. never looking at me. She nodded in agreement. The arbiter leaned back in her chair. That's it. 8 weeks off until Marsha reviews and selects a consultant. Marsha tapped the table with her painted nails, something she almost never did, but always indicated nervousness. No, I'll start interviewing consultants after my 8-week break. I was on the verge of tears, but before I could utter another sound, my lawyer said, "That seems fair, and of course the costs of arranging the consultations will be covered by Mr. Blackwell through my office." With that, the referee stood up from her seat. Well, I think that went well. My wife and her lawyer stood up. Everyone shook the referee's hand. Marsha's lawyer then shook my lawyer's hand. "We'll get back to you." My lawyer turned, smiled, and replied, "No hurry." No rush, I thought. No rush. I wanted to go home. I wanted my life back. What's happening? Marsha and her advisor left through a side door. As they were leaving, I called out, "Marsha, can we—" My lawyer took my hand. "Not now, Gary. Let's let nature do its thing. You'll see. Things always work out in the end." We left the office. My lawyer went to his Escalade. I drifted towards my Camaro. Funny thing about cars. Before Meadow, we had a Malibu and a BMW. But Meadow meant another seat, so we bought an Expedition. It didn't last. Marsha was short and didn't feel comfortable driving, so we bought an Explorer. Even with that, Marsha wanted something different, something sporty, so we bought her a Camaro. The boys, too independent to ride with their mother, took the bus, but with me gone, I received a call from her father that Marsha needed an Explorer to take the boys to sporting events. I was wondering how she did it. My first new evening visit arrived. Marsha didn't even look at me. She went upstairs. 5 of us sat around a dining room table. I tried to engage my boys in conversation about school, then sports, lastly video games. Nothing. Meadow was the only one. We talked about her writing practice and dance lessons. After about an hour, Jaime signaled to his brothers and announced, "Dad, we have homework." And that was it. They went upstairs. I stayed with Meadow for a while longer, but it was no use. My first official day off didn't go any better. I arrived at what was supposed to be my home at 10 my skewer on Saturday morning. They were ready, and we set off. I tried to fit as much as I could into the time I had. We went to McDonald's for lunch, then we went to a movie. Late that evening, we went back to Helen's, had dinner, watched some TV, and sent them off to bed. The next morning, Jaime told me they needed to go home and get ready for Mass. I said I would take them, but Jaime refused. He said it was Mom's job and that I shouldn't be with her. So it was a terrible weekend. I included Helen's boy, Marion, in the program. He seemed to be the only one having fun. Even Meadow was sullen and uncommunicative. I gave up and said, "Maybe next time." Neither child said anything. I took them home before 9:10, so they had time to get ready. The following weeks followed the same pattern. The children were polite and well-behaved, but it was obvious that I was becoming an outsider. I was even starting to lose Meadow. Something was happening. I couldn't imagine Marsha turning our children against me, but I just didn't know. What should I do? While I was trying to figure it out, I spent a lot of time remembering. In the early stages of our dating, Marsha was definitely not anyone's crush, certainly not mine. Oh, I liked her, but not really in love. However, I continued to meet with her. In fact, I haven't dated anyone else since our first date. I thought then that I had used her. How did I understand this? I reasoned that since I was dating this homely little nobody, other people, especially girls, would see me as some noble guy. What's great is that it worked. But I still haven't met them. I think I felt sorry for her. Plus, I was finishing law school and needed time to study. There was a kind of symbiosis there. I stayed at home studying to become a lawyer while she stayed at home doing all her religious things. It turned out that I was either at her parents' house or she was at my apartment with me. Both studied and prayed, but did not really communicate. It was nice. She was so quiet. This was something unusual for a young woman. I was remembering our first real date. I got tickets to a theater in the city center. I didn't know it at the time, but Her mom took her out shopping and they bought a new black dress, her first, I was told later. She was so young. Anyway, I had a plan. Come to her house, bring flowers, be a knight on a white horse, take her to dinner, then to the theater and get her home at a decent time so I could go have some fun later. Nothing works out the way we plan. I was on my way, but some fool was in a hurry on the freeway. He or she changed lanes too quickly. I found myself at the end of a big accident. My car was not damaged, but I was trapped in the middle of a long line of cars. There were cell phones back then, but I didn't have them yet, so I couldn't call and warn Marsha. I got to her house an hour later than planned, and it was Marsha's first real date. Ever. This is what I learned years later. Anyway, I arrived at her house, and even though she was there, she stayed upstairs. I was faced with 4 brothers and a father, ready to fight. I explained what happened. Thank God for television. The accident was in the news. Her mom called upstairs to come down, but Marsha said she didn't feel well. This, of course, was nonsense. I was in their living room wearing a suit with a bunch of cheap flowers. I smiled at Mrs. Fitzgerald. Damn, I'm tired. How about a cup of coffee? She hurried into the kitchen while I headed to the dining table, followed by the 5 Fitzgerald men. And so we all sat for almost an hour. I wasn't going to leave. Dressed in an old, baggy blouse and corduroy pants that looked like they might have belonged to one of her brothers years ago, Marsha eventually came down. Her eyes, even an hour later, were still a little puffy and red. I knew she was crying. Imagine your first real date. She must have thought I would leave her. I later learned that this was exactly what she was thinking. I stood up. Well, come on, let's go. She was surprised. It's late. We can't go now. I handed her flowers and carnations. Forget about roses, first date, and with a girl like this, I told her, we missed the show, but Sleepy Hollow is on at the mall. We'll watch a movie and then stop for pizza. And that's what we did. Later, I didn't regret missing the performance. I got tickets to see the Phantom of the Opera. I was very young and not very smart. We were at the forefront of the hospital case, and the rest of my work was pretty easy, too. Too easy, in fact. One day, senior partner Delbert Clausen called me to his place. Gary, he began, as soon as we wrap up this hospital case, we want you to take a break. I was surprised. Why? Everything is going well, isn't it? He replied, you're good, better than ever, but we think you need some rest. Go on a trip, buy new clothes, get some sun. We know it's been hard with work pressure and problems at home. We just need you in better shape. So bad, huh? He smiled. Yeah, plus we have a couple big things on the horizon. You'll need it. So I decided to take a little break. But before I left, I thought I'd try harder to get back into my wife's good graces, or at least figure out what was going on with my kids, especially the boys. Nothing worked. I tried to get them to go to the movies with me, forget about it. Even Meadow wasn't interested. Something was happening. I decided to wait a few days. I kept trying. I called and called, but every time I was refused. When I returned to work after I completed my part on the hospital case, I took 3 weeks off. I planned to spend 2 weeks in the Bahamas and return for a third. Jaime's birthday was coming up soon. I'm sorry I did this, but on the other hand, the Bahamas were nice, but not for me. There were girls in bikinis, alcohol, and organized parties, but my mind was elsewhere. I just couldn't get Marsha out of my head. I kept thinking about our past. I thought back to the time when I think I began to realize that Marsha was more to me than just a henchman that I was dragging around with me. I dated her for a few weeks without much thought. Hell, I could take her to the movies, buy her a bag of popcorn, hug her, feel good about doing something good for some vulnerable person, like charity, and still go out later with friends, hook up with some girl, and have fun. Yes, I started. Badly? I suppose so. But she didn't know. And even if she knew that then, all our dates were essentially incognito. I think she understood this. Like our first few dates, she was always very excited. She had to go somewhere and be with a real, handsome, good-looking guy. But after a while, I realized that she realized that we were not going anywhere. It was all fiction. I don't remember if it was her decision or mine. but I decided to do a little more, take the next step. We went bowling. To be honest, she had been bowling before, but only with her friends, and only during the day. Real fun. Well, that was a completely different story. She had friends, of course, but they weren't real friends. People can be cruel. Girls did things. They went to the beach, had sleepovers, and had parties. Helen told me about this. Marsha's friends were always nice to her, but when it came to anything involving guys or where social planning was required, she stayed away. This meant trips to the beach, the pool, a party, or worst of all, sleepovers, never included it. Helen once told me that Marsha even tried to organize her own pajama party, but one by one all of her friends found a reason to be absent. I heard this and thought, am I an asshole? I think the bowling alley was Helen's idea. I picked Marsha up at the usual time and she asked, "What movie is tonight?" I muttered, "No movies tonight. We're going bowling." Damn, who would have thought that I proposed marriage to her? She exclaimed in delight, "Bowling? Wow, I don't have shoes." I said indifferently, "We rent." And so we went. Later I understood. It was bowling that hooked me. Marsha had never met any of my friends, so I thought I'd top off the bowling with a cheap burger and Coke, plus meeting a few of my friends at the counter. Well, we played a couple of games. I was a gentleman and let her win, but also made sure she understood it. We finished our games and I led her to the food counter. Some of my friends saw us. Neither of them had seen Marsha before. I was leading the way, or it was Marsha who was lagging behind. Anyway, she was behind me and there were guys behind her. It had to happen. I even thought about it a couple of times myself. Some idiot in the back made a rude comment, the usual put a bag over her head. I turned around and saw that Marsha had heard it. It was like looking at a puppy that someone had just kicked. I may have been in law school and I may have had some outward social coloring, but hearing that took me back about 6 years. Honestly, I've never been in a fight. Not once. Ever. I took a few boxing lessons in my first year at university as part of my PE classes, but that was it. Nevertheless, here I was, here they were, and here stood Marsha. I did and said the only thing that came to my mind. I pushed the idiot and hissed, "Fuck off." In ancient times, a knight threw down a gauntlet. Where I grew up, it was fuck off. I was amazed. The guy and his friends all retreated. The one who made the remark raised his hands, palms forward. "Sorry, man." He looked at Marsha. "Really sorry." And they all quickly walked away. I glanced at Marsha, and holy crap, did I get the look. That night, that moment, I stopped being Gary Blackwell. I have become Sir Galahad. She looked at me as if I had just killed a dragon. And with that look, at that moment, she ceased to be the homely little rag that I pitied. I didn't know that for sure yet. No, I wasn't there yet, but she was just one step away from being the one. After that, everything started to change. I kept thinking about our past. I thought back to the time when I think I began to realize that Marsha was more to me than just a henchman that I was dragging around with me. I dated her for a few weeks without much thought. Hell, I could take her to the movies, buy her a bag of popcorn, hug her, feel good about doing something good for some vulnerable person, like charity, and still go out later with friends, hook up with some girl and have fun. Yes, I started. Badly? I suppose so, but she didn't know, and even if she knew that then. All our dates were essentially incognito. I think she understood this. Like our first few dates, she was always very excited. She had to go somewhere, and be with a real handsomey, good-looking guy. But after a while I realized that she realized that we were not going anywhere. It was all fiction. I don't remember if it was her decision or mine, but I decided to do a little more. Take the next step. We went bowling. To be honest, she had been bowling before, but only with her friends and only during the day. Real fun. Well, that was a completely different story. She had friends, of course, but they weren't real friends. People can be cruel. Girls did things. They went to the beach, had sleepovers, and had parties. Helen told me about this. Marsha's friends were always nice to her, but when it came to anything involving guys or where social planning was required, she stayed away. This meant trips to the beach, the pool, a party, or worst of all, sleepovers never included it. Helen once told me that Marsha even tried to organize her own pajama party, but one by one, all of her friends found a reason to be absent. I heard this and thought, am I an asshole? I think the bowling alley was Helen's idea. I picked Marsha up at the usual time and she asked, "What movie is tonight?" I muttered, "No movies tonight, we're going bowling." Damn, who would have thought that I proposed marriage to her? She exclaimed in delight, "Bowling, wow, I don't have shoes." I said indifferently, "We rent." And so we went. Later, I understood. It was bowling that hooked me. Marsha had never met any of my friends, so I thought I'd top off the bowling with a cheap burger and Coke, plus meeting a few of my friends at the counter. Well, we played a couple of games. I was a gentleman and let her win, but also made sure she understood it. We finished our games, and I led her to the food counter. Some of my friends saw us. Neither of them had seen Marsha before. I was leading the way, or it was Marsha who was lagging behind. Anyway, she was behind me, and there were guys behind her. It had to happen. I even thought about it a couple of times myself. Some idiot in the back made a rude comment. The usual, "put a bag over her head." I turned around and saw that Marsha had heard it. It was like looking at a puppy that someone had just kicked. I may have been in law school and I may have had some outward social coloring, but hearing that took me back about 6 years. Honestly, I've never been in a fight. Not once. Ever. I took a few boxing lessons in my first year at university as part of my PE classes, but that was it. Nevertheless, here I was, here they were, and here stood Marsha. I did and said the only thing that came to my mind. I pushed the idiot and hissed, "Fuck off." In ancient times, a knight threw down a gauntlet. Where I grew up, it was fuck off. I was amazed. The guy and his friends all retreated. The one who made the remark raised his hands, palms forward. "Sorry, man," he looked at Marsha. "Really? Sorry?" And they all quickly walked away. I glanced at Marsha, and holy crap, did I get the look? That night, that moment, I stopped being Gary Blackwell. I have become Sir Galahad. She looked at me as if I had just killed a dragon, and with that look, at that moment, she ceased to be the homely little rag that I pitied. I didn't know that for sure yet. No, I wasn't there yet, but she was just one step away from being the one. After that, everything started to change. So what am I doing now? Hell, I threw everything away because of a piece of tail that I normally wouldn't even notice. I returned just in time for Jaime's birthday. I found out that they will be celebrating at the Fitzgeralds. Unsurprisingly, this was normal for me, at least at first. Then I found out that Marsha had a friend. That's what Helen said. Well, the guy she was dating. He will also be at the party. It was predictable. I arrived at the party a little before lunch. I bought Jaime a set of books. He was interested in the Civil War, so I purchased Shelby Foote's 3-volume military history for him. I wrapped them up so it was a complete surprise. Of course, it was a lot of reading. But everyone knows books. They are books. Jaime mentioned something about a drone once, but I brushed it off. I told him that if he wanted another toy, he could save up and buy it himself. That's what I said. After parking on the street, I walked to the front door. In the past, I would have just walked in. But with our problem, my problem, I no longer had that privilege. As I stood at the front door, I heard a lot of screaming and laughing inside, and I knew it was my children and Jaime's friends. I knocked, then knocked again. My second knock brought Alan. He opened the door. "Dad." Then, almost as if he suddenly remembered, he stepped back and repeated more quietly, "Dad." "Hi," I said. "Did you miss me?" He walked away. "Mom's in the dining room." I tried to pick him up, but he dodged. "Sorry, Dad. Mom and Grandpa." I felt something in my back. Was it a knife? I said, "Oh, I understand, of course. You said cafeteria. Got it." He turned pale and threw himself into my arms. "Dad." I hugged him as tightly as I could without hurting him. I no longer had to think about what was happening. I let him go and headed towards the dining room, but was stopped in my tracks. There was another man there, and he was holding Marsha's thigh. I thought it was too possessive. Marsha's father beamed. I started to seethe, thinking, well, she sure didn't waste any time. By that time, the noise had died down, and everyone turned in my direction. I took out a gift for Jaime and burst into the crowd. My boys, Meadow, my wife, Helen, and her boy, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, my wife's 2 unmarried brothers, plus this new man were there, and they were all looking at me. "Hi," I called. "I just got back from the Bahamas." Meadow screamed, "Daddy!" She threw herself into my arms. I picked her up. "How's my little angel?" She hugged me in her usual chokehold. "Missed you, Daddy." She kissed my cheek. Then, as if shocked by some electronic monitor, she leaned back. Was there some signal that I missed? She whispered, "Better put me on the ground." She had a tense, panicky look in her eyes. I put her down, thinking, what the... Giving her hand as if she were the Queen of Egypt, Marsha walked forward. "Oh, hi, Gary. We didn't think you'd come," I said. "What? Jaime is our son. It's his birthday." I emphasized the word "our" a little. Marsha stepped back as if I had hit her. She leaned on the man I assumed was her new man. "Gary, this is Cullen Willoughby." I examined him. I was 6 feet tall and well-built, 200 pounds. He had nothing against me but the fact that he had Marsha's hand. I extended my hand. "Nice to meet you." He took my hand. "You too." We engaged in a brief handshake competition until I turned my hand to relieve the tension. I could see that he felt like he had won some small victory. I looked at Marsha. She saw it and thought so too. I added, "You're dating my wife." He smiled at her, then at me. We became friends. I looked at Marsha, but I couldn't read her. I checked again and found a gift for Jaime and handed it over. "Here are the books for you, Jaime." Jaime unwrapped the gift. His eyes lit up. "Shelby Foote." I smiled. "Yes." Marsha ignored me and gave me the gift. Callan bought him a drone. I grinned. "Toy, it's cute." Nobody understood. Willoughby should have said something. "I hear you're a lawyer. You're the one fighting the case against the community hospital, where an unmarried mother refused to take her daughter to the hospital until it was almost too late. The surgeons there barely managed to save her, from what I've heard." "Yes, now she's just almost blind," he said. "It's a shame she didn't take her baby to the doctor sooner." I said, "Too bad she didn't have insurance." He said, "I heard. Medical expenses, doctor's fees, medical malpractice insurance. These are all problems we live with today, aren't they?" I said, "You think so? The baby is still a baby. Do you think it matters to her?" He said, "Don't get me wrong. I don't think the lawsuit was without merit." I interrupted his arrogant ass. "But it would be cheaper to just leave the baby blind." "No, I didn't mean that," he replied. I conceded politely. "I'm sure you didn't mean it, but medical costs are high. A woman only makes $8 an hour. She'll never be able to afford all the procedures her little girl will need," I added. "Sometimes it can be hard when you're a parent without resources." He gave in. "I didn't say her child shouldn't get help. I just thought that almost everyone has some kind of coverage these days." I smiled. "Forget it. With the settlement we get, the baby will be fine and it will help my kids get through college." From the other side of the table, Mr. Fitzgerald muttered, "Ambulance hunter. This bastard." Even his sons looked surprised by this. I couldn't get past, "You could use one sometime." I knew I shouldn't have said it as soon as it came out. I didn't look at anyone. It just hung in the air and stank. Mrs. Fitzgerald looked uncomfortable. She knew what I meant, and she knew I was right. However, this didn't make me feel any better. This was Marsha's signal. I couldn't believe it. "You missed the best part of the party. We already sang, opened gifts, and cut the cake. Would you like me to wrap a piece for you?" I looked at her parents, at her brothers, at Helen, at Cullen, and back at Marsha. And I knew, no matter whose sons and daughter were here or that Marsha was still, at least technically, my wife. This was not the place for me. I caught Jaime's eye in the crowd. I gave him my best dad look and said, "Be careful with the drone, son." I looked at my watch. I didn't really have anywhere to go, but staying at my own son's birthday party wasn't an option. Well, I gotta go. Work can't wait. I turned 180 degrees and walked straight to the front door. As I walked back to my car, I started thinking again. What I did was wrong. Of course I knew. But this other man thing? Marsha? Where did he come from? And my children, her own father poisons the well. Why does he do that? I haven't seen Marsha do anything like that, but who knows? I screwed up, and apparently it changed everything. Like the line from the old Willie Nelson song, a woman's heart turned from gold into stone. As I approached my car, I heard someone behind me shouting, "Dad, wait!" It was Jaime. He caught up with me, out of breath. "Dad, where are you going?" "Well, Take me with you." He was right next to me. I thought there was no way I could eat here, so I was going to Denny's. "Great," he said as he climbed into the passenger seat. From inside he shouted, "Come on!" I got into the car. "Don't you think you should—" "No," he interrupted. "Let's go already." I turned the key in the ignition, released the handbrake, and we drove off. The Denny's I originally planned to go to was close to my apartment, but with Jaime nearby, I decided to go to the one across the street from the mall. I looked at my boy. "I'm glad you're here, but this might make your mom angry." "Yeah, okay," he said. "Jaime," I warned him. He turned to face me. His seatbelt wasn't fastened. "Look, you don't know anything at all." I looked between him and the road. "Okay, but fasten your seatbelt first." I watched as he did what I asked. Good boy, I thought. "Dad, you just don't know anything, and is Denny okay? Or do you prefer Ruby Tuesday or something?" "How about Texas Roadhouse? I can order steak and ribs on the side, plus they have peanuts." I smiled. "Not very hungry, huh?" He leaned back in his seat. More to himself, he said, "God, I have so much to tell you." I ignored his comment. We continued towards the roadhouse in silence. Of course, when we got there was a waiting list. I left my name and took the electronic pager. The weather wasn't too bad, so we decided to wait outside. I looked at my boy. "Okay, what's going on?" "That man and grandfather and Uncle Stephen, they are against you." I thought, "Well, you've got my attention," I said. "Okay, what does that mean?" "That man wants his mother, and Grandpa and Uncle Stephen are helping him." I nodded. "Dad," I heard him say, "he wants to marry Mom. He wants to move. He wants our house and things." "You mean sell?" "What?" "Yes, I think so. I don't know. He told Mom, but not to us. He told Mom, but not to us." My stomach turned. The man lost his wife and has 2 children. Damn it, he wants a family. He wants my family. I muttered, "I see. What does he do? Did he say anything about it?" "Yes, he works in Richmond, but goes to Baltimore often. He talks about something to do with the Fed." "Oh, God," I winced. "Federal Reserve." "Jaime, did he say Federal Reserve?" "That's it, Dad. He works there. Do you know what he does?" "The Federal Reserve manages our money supply. Their main offices are in Baltimore, but they also have offices in Richmond." Jaime asked, "Is he rich?" "He has a Mercedes." Mercedes didn't scare me. Still, I nodded. "Maybe. It's the federal government. They pay good money." Jaime was really upset. He had his reasons. "Dad, I know what you did. You were wrong. I was really mad at you at first. Wilson and Alan are still mad. Mito, well, she doesn't understand these things. Tell me, Jaime, does your mother know how you feel about this?" "Well, in a way. She knows we didn't want to be around you. She knows I know what you did. She doesn't know that my brothers know." "How did they know?" "I told them, Dad, I was so angry with you, but you know." "No, tell me, son. I'd be interested to know." Our pager suddenly began to sing its tune. I started to get up, but Jaime held me back. "Not now. Wait. Listen." I sat down again. "Okay. Listen, you're our dad. Yes, you were wrong, but still, we need you. Mommy needs you. Mommy really needs you. Meadow needs you. Dad?" "Yes?" Dad, you've been away for a long time. You're at Aunt Helen's. Mom wanted you there so she could keep an eye on you. She talks to Aunt Helen every day. She hears you there. And yes, she's keeping an eye on you. By GPS. Dad, you need to do something. This man... I certainly understood why Marsha wanted me to be with Helen, and I knew she felt bad about what I had done. But GPS and this man. Son, what else do you know about this man? Grandpa loves him. Uncle Stephen brought him. Is it true? Yes, he's a friend of one of Uncle Stephen's friends. They spend a lot of time together. A lot. Grandpa is really mad at you. He says you're some kind of politician, some Jonathan Edwards. Who is he anyway? Grandpa says that Mom should divorce you. I ignored the remark about Jonathan Edwards. What does Mom say to that? Come on, Dad, we're Catholics, and besides... Besides what, Jaime? You know, Mom has a problem. She thinks... Damn, son, it's been a long time. She had surgery when she was a baby, and a ton of procedures since then. Sure, the lip looked bright red when I met her, but after so much cosmetic surgery, it's barely noticeable. Dad, before you did what you did to that woman, Mom told us about you. You know, she told us what you were like. I guessed what she said, and I'm not proud of who I was. What do you mean? She told us how wonderful you were, how you were like Superman, how you cared about her, how you made her love you, and all the good things you did. Damn, you should be something special. Really? She said I was pretty good? Dad, she loves you so much. You were like the ideal, and then... Well, now I think she kind of expects you, you know. That's when Jaime was interrupted. Somehow Mr. Willoughby found us. Damn GPS. He walked towards where we were sitting. Jaime, your mom is worried about you. You just ran away. I watched as my son's shoulders tensed. It's okay. I'm with Daddy. Well, said Willoughby, she sent me to pick you up. My son stood up. I don't need you to bring me back. Daddy can do it. I appreciated Willoughby from head to toe. Yes, I thought. He would like nothing better than to report how I caused a scene. I turned to Jaime. Better let him drive you. Papa? No, continue. I'm glad we talked. I leaned forward a little. Keep what we said under your hat. I winked. Everything will be okay. Mr. Willoughby reached out to take my son's hand. He pulled away. I'll go, but don't touch me. Willoughby looked at me. He muttered to himself, don't make her get a restraining order. I raised my hands, palms facing Willoughby. We're good. I turned to Jaime. I got it, baby. Just keep your cool, okay? Jaime glanced sideways at Willoughby and then looked at me. Of course, Dad. After he left, Jaime asked me, Dad, who is Bonnie Tyler? I waved after them as they left. Well, I thought, where did this come from? What did Marsha say to Jaime? What does Bonnie Tyler have to do with it, and how did Marsha know about her? What should I have said? Damn, that was heavy stuff. A curse. I mean, damn it, doubly damn. Where did Bonnie Tyler come from? Hell, she was what I laughingly called garbage, a fish too small to hold. She was just some stupid little girl, so caught up in ideas of love and happily ever after, that she fell in love with the first jerk who paid attention to her. Bonnie was just like that, a skinny, flat-chested, mousy kid I found in the library during my senior year of college. She was studying English literature and working on a Defoe assignment when I ran into her. A little nobody. I dated her a little. She fell in love. I could have had her, but I just couldn't bring myself to take the virginity of someone so naive. Think about it. Except for her lip, she was very similar to Marsha. I remember I let her down easily. I actually had a friend who was a nerd. I introduced them and, well, I imagine. She later called me her mascot. I heard that they got married. I thought about it some more. I had to pull my head out of my ass. I needed to save my marriage. Okay, we have 5 sessions. This is the beginning. Then we'll see from there. Damn, no one is selling my house. Willoughby is an asshole if he thinks he can take over my life. Both Mr. Fitzgerald and young Mr. Stephen. Aren't they both parts of the job? I'll get to them too. My lawyer called me today. Marsha settled on a consultant, a woman named Melody Whiting. I'll call her Dr. Whiting. We are expected to have one private session each, and then the final 3 sessions will be done together. I didn't think it would work out like this for us. I think I was wrong. Had a single session with a consultant, went as I expected. She asked me the expected questions, why we are where we are, what I want, what I'm willing to do I understand Marsha, and all the usual stuff. I talked for about 20 minutes while she listened and took notes. She said I would be notified when the 3 of yous got together. As I left, I thought she was being dismissive. It made sense. She's Marsha's person. I didn't think it would be easy. Today we had our first joint meeting. Everything went a little hard. Marsha wasn't ready to talk, so it was mostly me. She kept saying that she had a headache and just wanted to go home. She said she felt sick. Jesus, how long ago was this? I did everything I could. What could I do? I can now say, I'm so sorry in 6 languages. I answered all the questions. I tried to explain the inexplicable. Damn it, how many times will I have to explain that I couldn't explain how this happened? Dr. Whiting seemed bored with it all. It's boring for me for sure. Perhaps she and Marsha had worked through all of this and still hadn't come up with a suitable way to release the weight on me. Marsha was up to something. Honestly, I think she has decided not to make a decision, at least for now. I don't think she wants a divorce, but I don't think she wants me around. At least, not at the moment. It doesn't make much sense, but it does. She musters up the courage to make a final decision. I'm ready to work things out, but if only she had said something. I spoke to Helen last night. She said she thought Marsha was thinking about divorce, but said there was something else she couldn't tell me. It also seems like this Willoughby character has made some serious strides. Marsha slows down. Helen said that none of the children liked him, but this only made Marsha more determined. Helen said her father liked Willoughby, says she has never seen her father so confident. The last one got me thinking, Marsha's father is a police officer. 2 of his sons are police officers, and 2 others work in other areas of law enforcement. I always knew he was digging into my past. Yes, he had many good reasons for not wanting me around his daughter. I guess 4 grandchildren, a big house, and the fact that she never had to work didn't matter. When Marsha and I first started dating, after the initial resentment, Mr. Fitzgerald seemed to back down. I see it now. When I took Marsha to places where it didn't matter, he would back off, but after bowling and when I started dragging her to places where we were seen together, he became less hostile, but less friendly, more uncooperative, always putting up small roadblocks. I bet he saw the changes. Changes in me and then changes in March. Fitzgerald, he's Irish. I thought the Irish were supposed to be emotional and hot-tempered, quick to get angry but just as quick to forgive. Mr. Fitzgerald was not like that with me. He was cool, not cold, but calculating and always vigilant. He is the same with his wife. She is like some kind of slave to him. Come to think of it, no one is allowed to disagree with him. His opinion, his approach, has always been the way. Gosh, Marsha was like a little puppy when I first started dating her. She was his pet until I showed up, and then she started showing some spunk. I would stand up to him, and she would be the only one who would take my side. I can remember it now. I would be proud of her and see that she is proud of herself. My thoughts were crazy. This bastard treated Marsha like some kind of cripple her whole life. She was to become his gift to the church. Then I got in the way. Helen said Marsha thinks I'm doing propaganda to kids if I could. I'll say this. The relationship I've had with the kids over the last few visits hasn't been that good. Wilson and Alan act sullen. Meadow is starting to get beyond me. Jaime just watches me. He's waiting for something. I think I should do something. I just would like to know what it is. Jaime and I text a lot. He uses Meadow's phone. He says that's the only thing Marsha doesn't check. Jaime is waiting for me to do something. I know it. I just don't know what. I keep trying to apologize, but Marsha just won't listen. Jaime gave me a good tip. He told me that his mom and Willoughby go out to eat often, maybe twice a week. That's a lot. Like a full court press. Jaime said his mom talked him into taking her to either the Grotto or the Olive Garden. The Grotto specializes in seafood and, of course, there's an Olive Garden. although this is a big deal. These are the places we visited. I thought about it and got through to Jaime. It wasn't easy. We have agreed to. Every time Marsha and Willoughby went to a restaurant, he had to text me so I knew where they were going. He was very firm in his dislike of this man and wanted me to return home. We agreed. What a wonderful child, Jaime replied. They were heading to Grotto. I called ahead to make sure they were actually going there, and that since there were no booths, Willoughby had reserved a table. I also organized a table. I drove early and arrived at the venue a little earlier than my target couple. I watched as he helped her out of his car, a gray Mercedes, and walked her by the arm. I followed them. The restaurant was divided into several rooms. They were in the largest hall. I was nearby, in a smaller room. The bad thing is, but the lucky thing is that I had a window seat and could watch the parking lot. Realizing that my original plan of disturbing their privacy by eating in front of them would not work, I came up with an alternative plan. I waited 10 minutes and called the waitress. I pointed to where the suspect couple was sitting, and from the appetizer menu ordered a plate of stuffed mushroom caps and a tray of oysters on the half-shell topped with imperial crab to send to them. I chose these dishes because they were the things we always ordered. I asked the waitress to tell them it was from an old friend who was dining nearby. I didn't know what impact my gift had, but less than 10 minutes after ordering, my waitress reappeared with 2 trays. She told me that the couple was grateful but decided to refuse my gift. Less than 5 minutes later, I watched from my table as Mr. Willoughby helped my wife back into his car. I was disappointed. I hoped for more. I couldn't say what exactly, just more. I suggested wistfully that they would go to a more hospitable place. I was still hungry, so I ate the appetizers and followed it up with grilled salmon. Good news. As I sadly ate the last pieces of my fish, I received a message. It was from Jaime. Mr. Willoughby had just driven Marsha home. Mom, he said, seemed upset about something. I responded to his message telling him what I did. He immediately responded, MPV. Not knowing the SMS language, I assumed it meant, well done, Dad. I knew I had one true ally. 2 nights later, Jaime alerted me that they were heading to Outback Steakhouse. Yeah, new place. This time I arrived there first and took a place at the entrance. Marsha noticed me as they entered. She turned pale. They left. An hour later, I received a message from Jaime. He was put on hold and stripped of all telephone privileges. I found out the source of his message. He used Alan's phone. Oh yeah. New friend? Catching my wife and her sinister companion in restaurants was one thing, but I needed more. As I mentioned, Marsha volunteered at St. Timothy's, our children's school. She would come with Meadow and return when Meadow was done for the day. It's time to apply more pressure. I showered St. Timothy with a variety of gifts, some for Marsha, but a few for the school as well. We weren't rich by any standard, but I could afford some things. I ordered new notebooks for the secretaries where Marsha left her jacket. It was only 4 computers, but she must have noticed they came as gifts from me. Marsha was not forgotten either. She liked flowers, roses. Now my wife is someone who could be called ethereal, if that word can be used as a noun. Over the course of 1 week, I ensured that a dozen long-stem roses were delivered to her. On Monday, she received yellow ones. The card said, Friendship. On Tuesday, orange ones with the label, Passion, arrived. The middle ones were red with the phrase, I love you. The Thursday flowers were pink with our children's names, and the Friday stems were white with the Lincoln quote, Love is everlasting. I knew my Marsha. If she didn't already know, she would check the meaning of each color. Okay, I begged. What else was left? On Saturday, while I was mowing Helen's lawn, a delivery man showed up with a large cardboard box. There were 5 dozen roses inside, all wrinkled and crumpled. At least I tried. Jaime bought a burner phone. We agreed to meet after school. When I arrived, Wilson was already there. Jaime began, First of all, before we start, Meadow and Alan don't know anything, but Will, we call Wilson Will, and I do. I replied, Okay, what do we know? Jaime turned into turbo mode. Mr. Willoughby's wife lives in Richmond. She left him and moved in with another man. She left him and their daughters. I already knew this. I hired a private agency. Jaime continued. I don't think it's about the money or the mum or anything. I think Mr. Willoughby just wants a new family. He has daughters. We've met them. Wilson chimed in. They're pigs, Dad. They're both in high school and they think they're incredibly special. Don't call them pigs, son. Wilson looked at Jaime. See? There he is, our dad. Jaime smiled at his brother. He said you would protect them, he continued. Mr. Willoughby comes around all the time now. Sometimes he brings his daughters. Sometimes he leaves them at home. They are somehow bullying Mado, so she does not like it. I started, they're kidding me. Not in front of Mom, Jaime added. Wilson said, they tease her about her room and stuff. You know, stuffed animals and clouds and stuff, I asked. The clouds that Marsha... Yes, Jaime interjected. Painted on the walls, I finished my sentence. Jaime continued, they're playing Scrabble. And he lets her win, I affirmed. She always did this. Wilson, yeah, Dad, but she really beat you. He's smarter. He knows a lot more words. Mom said things. I asked, what things? Wilson responded. He asked her questions, and she talked about you. She told him how you were never home. You worked all the time. You never had time. I got angry. Damn it! That's not true. I came home every night. Sometimes I was late, but I always had a reason. Jaime said, Mom told him it was because you were with... I was furious. You know that's not true. Wilson smiled. We know, Dad. Jaime looked towards the parking lot. Oh. He nodded in her direction. Mom. I turned around and saw her crossing the parking lot. I looked at my boys. I guess our meeting is over. We sat in the stands. They both jumped up and ran. In unison, they shouted, see you later. I shouted back, yes, soon. As my boys got into the car, I could see Marcia scolding them. I thought about what they told me. My sources basically described the same thing. Willoughby was a senior administrator at the Federal Reserve. He made excellent money, but his wife ran away from her responsibilities. I was not surprised by my wife. Teenage girls often exhibit profound antisocial behavior, often directed primarily at their mothers. The stress may have overwhelmed her. Then the second part, she found herself a young, rich man. Willoughby was not some kind of predator. It would be better if he was. No, he was a victim seeking refuge. And he certainly saw Marsha for what she was, a caring, helping person, always willing to take in a helpless puppy. So he found the perfect home. 3 well-adjusted boys, a charming daughter, and a woman who finds satisfaction in helping others. There was only one problem. This was my home. These were my boys. This was my charming daughter. And the woman he wanted to win was my wife. We had a second meeting. I was lost. It felt like everything I had ever had or would ever have was slipping away. No attempts at reason, no efforts at pacification, no promises or oaths worked. I chose the only path that remained. I begged, I pleaded, I cried, I got on my knees. I begged her to forgive me. I begged her to let me come home, to let me dedicate my life to making her happy. I spoke to the stone. At the end of our last meeting, after 40 minutes of stony silence, Marsha finally made a statement. She said, I cannot and will not forget what you did. I will not forgive you and I never will, ever. She said, I replied, I've said it 100 times already. I love you. I made a mistake. I want to make it right. Can't you just say something? Say something other than this business of unforgiveness. She killed me. Okay, I'll say something. First of all, how do I know you're telling the truth? You said it was the only time. How do I know that? You work a lot late. You travel. You get calls at odd times, and you never tell me who they're from. Sometimes you come home and I smell perfume. Sometimes there's lipstick. My dad told me you're on the street all the time. His police friends told him what they saw you with women. Sometimes you came home and you were too tired for me. My dad is right. You are cheating. You have never been honest with me. You are a cheater. I just never thought about it until this happened. Damn, I replied. Marsha, you know that's not true. Some of my clients were women. You knew that. How many times have I come home almost in tears because some crazy woman was on the verge of hysterics in the hospital with a child? Oh my God, Marsha, you know this last case was emotionally draining. You even met Mom. You saw her hug and kiss me, thanking me for taking her daughter's case. That's not cheating. That's being a good lawyer. I got really angry. You remember the old lady with the farm, don't you? Remember how the so-called businessman got her to sign a waiver of her property and how he lied? You remember, because she stayed with us for the night, she was so upset. You have to remember how she clung to me and held me and how she cried on both of our shoulders. Damn, Marsha. We won this case. You have to remember that. She didn't listen. I took another shot. Remember the girl in college who was almost tricked into giving up her trust fund by a lying relative? Do you remember how I told you how we beat the scoundrel at his own game and gave her money back? Do you remember? Do you remember how she offered herself to me and how you and I laughed at this proposal? She growled. My dad said you took advantage of her when it was all over. Marsha, I could not believe it. Gary, she added, I don't know what to say. You told me that this woman meant nothing, that what you did meant nothing. Don't you understand? It meant everything. This was my whole life. That was all that mattered. She took a deep breath and continued. Gary, I love you. I have always loved you. I will love you until the day I die, but you have slept with at least one other woman. You have broken our solemn vow. You have committed adultery. Being a cheater, always a cheater. Stunned, stumped, I said, Marsha, we can fix this. With a crash, the palms of her hands fell onto the table. No, we can't. It's like that candy bowl that broke one Easter. It broke. We tried to glue it back together, but it didn't matter. It was broken. It's broken. She raised her left hand to show me her wedding rings. She then stood up, thanked Dr. Whiting, and walked out of the room. Dr. Whiting smiled at me. At least she said something. That's something. I looked at her. I don't know what to do. I just don't know. And I really didn't know. The doctor surprised me. Mr. Blackstone, your wife loves you, but you are missing something here. I heard your story, how you met, the courtship, the problems. I know you feel like you're at the end of your rope, but don't you think that it's time to stop apologizing and start trying something different? I asked. Like what? She looked at me like I was some kind of idiot. You want her back? Try what works. I was stunned. I said, oh, sure. How can I do that? She smiled. You don't know? You are the knight, not me. We shook hands, and that was it. One last meeting, one last chance. Was this all that was left? On the way home, I admit I had a real good almost cry. Okay, I was out of breath, but I was also thinking, what should I have done? How can I get her back? What might work? What the hell could it be? I was thinking about things from our past. Hell, get her consent to marriage. It was something. It actually started after bowling. I remember the guy at the bowling alley said something that kind of knocked Marsha's confidence. The phrase bag on the head was not new to her. In fact, even her brothers sometimes used it against her. I now regret that sometimes I didn't know which ones. Getting her to go to more public places was problematic. I wasn't an expert in any of the things we did, but I had a pretty good set of experiences. We roller skated, skied, and fished. We went to the beach, and with all her pale, creamy skin, she was sunburned. We went to city carnivals. We went everywhere. Sometimes I literally had to drag her out of the car, but after a while I felt pretty proud. Of course, people noticed her, they looked at her lip, but they also saw other things. I tried to make them see. It took some time, but not as much as you might think. After some time, she really became a bit of an extrovert, cheerful and mischievous. Marsha has always been a beautiful girl, at least for me. For others, maybe not right away, but she won them over. She was small, well-built, graceful, and very feminine. I would say bubbly, sparkling, if that's the word. It should be. And then she agreed to marry me. First, I had to get her to agree. She planned to become a nun. It took forever to talk her into it, and to be honest, while I was thinking about it, before marriage we had no sex, nothing at all, just kissing and cuddling. There were people from the church who, it seemed to me, were trying to interfere. I couldn't and still can't say for sure, but I would bet Marsha's father was behind some of them. Mr. Fitzgerald comes from a large family. One of his brothers became a priest. I had a feeling that Mr. Fitzgerald, his priestly brother, and one of the nuns of the parish, who had been with Marsha since childhood, were trying to unite against her, hanging on her old guilt complex about how she was meant for a life of service and all that. Some thought she needed counseling. Why, I could not say, but after each visit to the church counseling center, she was a little cold towards me, unsure of what she wanted. Once she accepted the absurd idea of marrying me, I had to face her mom and dad. Her mom surprised me. She was pleased, but Dad, oh no, Mr. Fitzgerald put forward every possible reason. She was too weak, too fragile. If she became pregnant, she would never be able to carry a child. I was too masculine. I expected too much. I would have hurt her, physically and emotionally. She was still ill from many reasons and needed constant medical care. Well, she did have a heart murmur when she was a child, but that was history. He said she would never be able to hold the house together. People will use it. In his final attack, he angrily reminded me that she had dedicated herself to the church. I knew this was his strongest argument. I was stealing his gift to God. His gift, he said. I was able to shrug off everything except that. Then I found a gold mine. Marsha, I told them, was born to be a mother. She needed to have children. Any other role would have been a failure for her. I convinced them. Marsha loved children and loved being around them. I won her. She was in my hands. But he had one last argument, and he used it. He proved to her that I was no good. I had no defense other than what we had done together, and he questioned even that, providing evidence that I had been having an affair during our first dates. Yes, I was. The game was lost. He exposed me. I remember the doubt in her eyes. It seemed we were doomed. Then Marsha took the spear. She took my side. I was surprised, truly amazed, and incredibly proud. She became Boudica, the warrior queen of the Icans, and Darta, the Celtic goddess of war. I can still hear her like it was yesterday. I don't care. I love him. He's a fighter just like you, Dad. I'm going to marry him. He's everything I want. Everything I want too. I want to give him children, and I want a big wedding with a long white dress, and a veil, and rings, and a big bouquet, and bridesmaids, and a boy with rings, and a girl with flowers, and a big reception with an open bar. I said, I want an open bar so I can drink champagne. I want to throw a bouquet. I want it all, everything. I want a full show. Then she looked at me, and I want to go to Niagara Falls for my honeymoon. And that's what we did. All this. Now what should I do? I'm so lost and confused. What the hell should I do? Please, someone tell me. Well, here it is. The third and final meeting. It was scheduled for the week immediately after the second one, but I needed time. Both Dr. Whiting and Marsha agreed to wait. Meanwhile, it became harder and harder to reach my children on the phone. Helen told me that Meadow had been told what happened and she had become cold towards me. Alan found out from Meadow, and that's how I lost him. Jaime and Wilson were still there, but I could feel the changes. Wilson fell in love with Willoughby. Even Jaime began to talk about how he helps his mother. I was losing my family. Marsha loved me. I knew that. But it seemed like she couldn't or wouldn't get over what I had done. She had help. That was for sure. Her dad and Willoughby were there. It occurred to me, even if we get back together, it will never end, she will never forget, and I will spend the rest of my life apologizing. I wasn't made for this. Then there were children. As it was, my children left me. Marsha was right, the candy bowl was broken. If I wanted to stay close to my children, I would have to change the relationship. She could have stayed with Willoughby. He still needed someone. He would have it and could play the role of father. I would retreat and leave. I would become more distant acquaintances. The same father who disappointed everyone but was still just a phone call away if they needed money or anything else. Besides, I haven't seen any other alternatives. This led to the latter. Marcia was too good a Catholic to get a divorce, and I loved her too much to let her drown in grief and anger for the next 40 years. After all, there was Willoughby. It would have been better to let her go. She would have survived it and maybe married the government guy. So I decided, if she doesn't want a divorce, then I will. I called and received another short-term extension. This time I was told that this was it. There would be no more delays. I agreed. I went to confession for the last time. I told the priest, who was listening to me, that I was leaving the church. Of course, this whole staying with Helen thing had to end. I sat down with her and told her I was moving out. When she asked me where I would live, I told her the truth. I'm leaving the law firm in Richmond and starting my own business. When she asked me where, I told her maybe Charlotte, maybe Pittsburgh, I didn't know. She laughed. I'm not. I then called a lawyer who guided me through this mess I created. It wasn't really his fault. I knew who to blame. However, I didn't like his comments, so I fired him. I went online, found someone else, and told everything. I made a decision. The time has finally come for this final meeting. I went with documents in hand. I've come to a certain point. I had to be a man. Complete victory or complete destruction. Third meeting. I came to the big day. This meeting, like the second, was scheduled for late evening. Right on time. With documents in hand, I waited patiently in Dr. Whiting's outer office. Everything was ready. I received the divorce papers from my new lawyer that morning and packed a few personal items from Helen the night before. All that remained was to hand Marsha the documents. She could take them or not. If she had taken them, then if she had allowed me, I would have kissed her goodbye and paid for the doctor. Either way, she would get what she wanted, but on my terms. I sat quietly and waited. The documents we drew up were more than fair. A house, her car, child support, health insurance, a generous personal allowance, emergency funds, and a new phone number if she needed to contact me personally. Everything was included. So I waited. I was happy? No, I was unhappy, but I knew that we could not continue to live like this. It was the only thing left to do. 20 minutes after the appointed time, Dr. Whiting came out. Mr. Blackwell? I stood up. Yes. Please come in. I followed her, not to where we had met before, but to her private office. As soon as we sat down, she said, I'm sorry. Mrs. Blackwell called a few minutes ago. She won't be able to come. I asked, did she reschedule the appointment? Dr. Whiting replied, no. Did she say anything? We need to reschedule the meeting. We have to end these sessions. Dr. Whiting's face was emotionless. No, she said she wouldn't come back. When I reminded her of what you said, she said she didn't care. She wouldn't come back. I was a little dumbfounded. What should I do now? I thought. I frowned at the doctor. I guess I should call my lawyer. Have him contact her lawyer. Reassign. Nodding at the folder in my hands, Dr. Whiting asked, I see something there. May I ask? Yeah, no question. I gave in. She won. They're divorce papers. Guess I'll have to hire someone to serve them to her. Dr. Whiting played with a letter opener, then some papers on her desk. Yeah, I guess. She stood up. I'm sorry. We both walked to her office door. She opened it for me to come out. I wouldn't like to assume, but you're still just divorced. There are no legal restrictions. You could see her, serve her the papers yourself. I looked at the papers in my hands. I don't know, Dr. Whiting added. You don't have to hand them over. You could just visit her and leave the papers in the car. Still looking at my papers, I replied, I suppose I could do that? Dr. Whiting tried to smile. Call me. I shook her hand. I'll let you know. So I left the doctor's office and returned to the street. So what's now? I assumed Helen was keeping Marsha in the loop. She knew that I had packed my things. What was she thinking about? That I'm going to stand around and complain about one last session and do nothing. I walked over to my car, got in, started it, and drove out. My stomach was in knots. I was nervous and tense. It was a white-knuckle ride to my old house. When I arrived, Jaime and Wilson, who had taken the bus, were already home. Marsha, I knew, would arrive soon. I walked up and knocked on the door. After a moment of waiting, Jaime was there. "Dad?" He looked surprised. "Should you be here?" "I need to see your mother. She hasn't arrived yet." I could tell Jaime didn't know what to say or do. "Listen, I'll be outside." I pointed to my car. He looked scared. Was he going to cry? He nodded. "Okay." As I started to walk down the driveway, he called out to me. "You know Mom is really upset. She's been crying all night." I turned around. "I know." He just stood there at the door, looking at me, not knowing what to say. I wondered where Wilson was. I waited back at the car. It didn't take long. Marsha arrived. I went out. Meadow and Alan got out of her car, saw me and started running towards me, then stopped. Then Meadow ran forward. Alan followed her. Meadow rushed to me. "Daddy, Daddy, come home. Please don't go." She didn't cry, but one wrong word from me and... So I hugged her tightly, kissed her and said it was never up to me. Alan was next to me. "Hi, Dad?" I lowered my hand and stroked his hair. "Hey, Alan. Are you okay?" "Okay, I guess." Mom was crying again. I looked across the driveway. She was still sitting in the car, her hands gripping the steering wheel, her eyes looking straight ahead. I put Meadow on the ground, knelt down in front of them and said, "Guys, come into the house." Their eyes were wider than plates. They nodded and walked towards the front door. Jaime held it open for them. I approached Marsha. He knocked on the side window. She looked at me. I couldn't say for sure. Fear, anger, sadness. "Marsha, that's all. We need to talk." She looked away. She covered her face with her hands. Through the window, I couldn't tell if she was crying or something else. "Marsha," I said urgently, "open the door and come out." She looked at me again. There were tears in her eyes. She was scared. She said through the window, "Move away from the door." I walked away. She walked out, but held onto the door handle. "Helen said you were leaving." Oh my God, I thought. That's it. What should I say now? I replied. "It's true." She sank back onto the car door. She had dust from the road on her, and she was wearing a light pastel-colored dress, light brown, very pretty on her. She looked beautiful, but tired. There were shadows under her eyes. Yes, she was crying. We were only 10 inches apart. I raised my left hand slightly. "Don't lean like that, you'll stain your beautiful dress." She collapsed into my arms and started crying. I held her for a few seconds while she came to her senses. She stood up and stepped back a little. Straightened, jaw set, shoulders straight, she said, "I told Dr. Whiting I couldn't come today." I saw that she was recovering quickly. I wondered, has the moment passed? I replied, "I know." With her composure restored and in complete control of the situation, she stated, "You shouldn't have come here." I actually believed for a few seconds that I had a chance, but now, I said, "I have something I need to give you." I started walking to my car to get the package. She took a step in my direction, then stopped. "No, wait." I turned around. I said nothing, just stood there. She knew what it was. What will she do? Will it end right here on our front lawn? Like a statue, she stood. "I'm pregnant. I knew it." I suspected this in the first counseling session when she said she didn't feel well. I saw how she dressed and how she looked in the second session. She was now wearing a loose dress. More importantly, pregnant women are said to appear to glow, as if they have extra moisture or some kind of extra fat that they are secreting. Marsha had it. She always had it. She had it 4 times. She had it now. I replied, "I think I knew that from our first session." She looked puzzled, but only for a moment. "Yeah, I guess you would know. Why don't you—" I stopped her. "It was about you, not me. What do you want?" She sighed. "Can you come back tomorrow? I'm really tired. I need—" I interrupted her again. "No, I won't be back tomorrow, but I will. I'll help you in. I'll help you into bed." I checked my watch. Then I'll make the kids something to eat. Later tonight or tomorrow, we'll discuss all this. She nodded. She really was tired, exhausted. I assumed she hadn't slept all night. I hugged her shoulders. She didn't resist. I walked her along the sidewalk into the house and up the stairs. When I carried her to our bed, I pulled back the covers and top sheet. The children were all in the room with us. I said, "You're all waiting downstairs." They left, and I helped her take off her dress and bra and put her to bed. As I went to the window to draw the curtain, she whispered, "I just need to get some sleep. I'll be fine soon. You'll wait, won't you?" I turned around and, not strictly but decisively, answered, "I'll be downstairs." I went to the door, closed it, and went downstairs. As soon as I came down, they all surrounded me. Wilson was the first. "Aunt Helen called and said you were leaving," Jaime said. "She said you were going to divorce your mom." Alan and Meadow just watched. Then Alan said, "Mom cried all night. She called Grandpa and Grandpa came over. They had a big fight." Good news? I thought so. I smiled and made a little noise, but funny. "Mom is going to rest. What do you say to pizza? Maybe a movie?" Meadow exclaimed, "Frozen." Jaime frowned. "We all have homework." I waved him off. "Not tonight." Wilson rolled his eyes. Alan looked puzzled. I said, "How about Maleficent?" Jamie's gloomy look dissipated. "Okay." Alan smiled widely. Wilson shrugged, but Meadow crackled, "Great." So I ordered 3 large pizzas. We watched Maleficent, then we watched an old John Wayne movie that I liked. I was about to throw in another John Wayne movie when I realized no one was awake anymore, so I put them all to bed. It was school the next day, but I told them not to worry about homework since we were all taking the day off. Nobody objected. Once my kids were in bed, I checked on Marsha. She was fast asleep, so I grabbed a pillow and blanket and went back downstairs and settled on the couch. Closing my eyes, I promised myself, no matter how it ends, tomorrow this nightmare will end. I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee. Looking at the coffee table, I recognized the source. From across the room, Marsha said, "Jaime said you gave the kids the day off." Dropping the blanket to the floor, I turned around and put my feet on the floor. "That's right," she asked. "Can you explain why?" "Not until I try this coffee." I took the mug and took a long sip. It was hot. I mumbled, That's good." Marsha repeated, "Can you explain now?" "Of course. Why not? It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, not a cloud in the sky." She interrupted me. "How do you know? You just woke up." "Checked the weather forecast last night. It should be a perfect day, so—" She tried to interrupt again. "Shut up." "No," I interrupted. "Shut up. We're all going to get washed and dressed, at least all of you. I'll wear what I'm wearing now. Then we'll all go for a walk." "A walk? And where are you going?" "Down I-81 to the Luray Caverns to start. If we have time, we'll continue on to the museum near VMI. If we don't, we'll stay at the Hampton Hotel and do that tomorrow. We might even stop and visit the Normandy Memorial in Bedford. You know." "Do you—" She interrupted me. "You planned everything, didn't you?" I nodded. "Uh-huh." "Well," she said, standing up, "you weren't even supposed to be here." I sat back and protested. "But I'm here." She retorted, "I think you should leave now." I took another sip of my coffee. "Maybe you should come over here and sit down." She stood in a fighting pose, hands on hips. She said, "If you don't leave, I'll have to call—" I interrupted her before she finished. I pointed to the seat next to me on the couch. "Come here and sit." "What?" "You heard me. Come here." "I am not going to." I started to get up to approach her. "I said—" She walked over and sat on the edge of the sofa. "What do you want?" I said, "No, Marsha, the question is, what do you want?" She said, "I want you to leave." I replied sharply, "That's not what I meant." She started to open her mouth, but I continued, "In my opinion, you have 3 options. 1, you can save your family, let me raise my children with you, and give our fifth child that you are carrying the father he or she deserves. 2. You can indeed demand that I leave, but if you do, you will receive the documents that I have in the car, and then everything is valid will end. Or 3. You can pretend you still hate me, but then you'll never forgive me as long as you continue to wallow in self-pity. That last one, by the way, I won't allow. You think you're giving something, don't you? She answered. I replied, I don't think so. I know. I know that I am the father of 4 children, soon to be 5. I know that I am your husband. I know that you love me, and I know that I am imperfect. She was seething. It was good to see this. She retorted, You think you can come in here after what you've done and dictate terms? I said, I already did it, and I just did it. So what's going to happen? She just sat there looking at me. I waited, as it seemed to me, for a sufficient time, stood up and said, I'll go get the documents. She stood up and stood in front of me. You betrayed me. You broke our vows. You deceived me. I replied, I betrayed you. I broke our vows. I committed adultery, and I even lied to you about that hijacking, and I apologized over and over again, and I swore that I would never do anything like that again. Now, if you step aside, I'll go get the documents and we'll finish everything. I took a step to the side to go to the door. She also took a step and blocked my way again. You think I can forgive you, and everything will go back to normal. And what makes you think that the child I am carrying is yours at all? I stopped. I put my hands on her shoulders and said, You can. You have to forgive me. And no, things will never come back. But we can and will move on, together as a family or apart. And about our 5th child, I know that he or she is mine because I know you. Plus, I know when it happened. So, what will it be? A new beginning where we pick up the broken pieces of the candy bowl and actually fix it? Or a clean, final break? I took a step towards the door again. This time, she didn't try to get in my way. I guessed that this was really the end. It was only when I reached the door that I heard her quiet voice. Perhaps we could start in Harper's Ferry and make a week out of it. I stopped at the door. The next few days turned out differently. We actually started in Harper's Ferry and stood on Jefferson's Rock. We visited the D-Day Memorial in Bedford, explored the Luray Caverns, the VMI Museum, and topped it all off with a walk to the Natural Bridge. Jaime took along the Shelby Foote books I bought him, and we found the section on the VMI battle. We've all laughed at plenty of movies that have covered this in one way or another. Even Marsha laughed. How did the relationship develop between Marsha and me? First, we needed her dad's minivan. She followed him, but I insisted on going along. I waited outside while she came in to get the keys. Nobody came out, neither grandmother nor grandfather. I admit, I wanted a fight. We stayed at either the Hampton or the Marriott every night, so we had a good breakfast and clean sheets every morning. We took 2 rooms, one for the boys and one for Marsha, Meadow, and me. I had to get up a couple of times the first night to keep the boys in line. We spent 4 nights and 5 days away from home. School didn't matter. What we did was more important. Every night we took rooms with 2 large beds. The first night, Marsha and Meadow slept together and I slept next to them. The second night, Marsha was so tired and sore from all the walking that she lay with me while I massaged her back and round belly. The third night was a repeat of the first, but that night, Marsha allowed me to listen to our baby's heartbeat. I was also able to feel him or her moving. The last night after the massage, Marsha and I sort of lay down together and cuddled. We never said a word during all the nights, but on the last night we actually stayed close and kissed lightly. Not once during that entire time did Meadow try to join us in bed. I saw her with the boys every day. I think they were discussing what they should say and how Meadow should behave at night. Nobody mentioned anything about all our problems. When we got home, we put the kids to bed, and then Marsha and I had our little talk. She began, I don't think I can ever forgive you, Gary. You hurt me. You hurt me very much. I replied, I know I hurt you. I've been apologizing and begging you to let me come home for so long, and I'm sorry I can't do this anymore. I'm not perfect. I'm broken. This can't be. This has now been fixed, but it can be replaced. You're asking a lot, Gary. I don't know. I know, Marsha. Darling. She tried to interrupt. Don't call me. I interrupted her. I will call you darling. You are my darling. Nothing can change that. So that's where I left off. We are people of faith. God forgives. Of course, we are not God, but we must try. Jesus offered a convicted criminal eternal life when both were on the cross. Peter lied and denied Christ 3 times. Not once, but 3 times. What did Jesus say and do, Marsha? She didn't answer, so I told her. He found Peter fishing in the sea. 3 times he asked Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 times Peter answered that he loved. 3 times Jesus forgave Peter. He forgave him for 3 denials. Peter failed, but Jesus forgave. I failed, Marsha. If you can't forgive and let me come home, then I have to leave. What do you want? Do you want me to leave? Do you want me to leave so you can marry Cullen Willoughby? She rolled her eyes at that. Maybe if you come back and stay downstairs. I replied, no, if I go back, I will sleep with my wife. She objected. You couldn't. I told her, if I come back, I'll come back completely. I want the whole package. I want my kids, my home, my wife, and I expect to have the love and intimacy that comes with marriage. She muttered, well, I guess. I said, no, Marsha, no guesswork. If we're in, we're all in. I'll probably still be mad at you from time to time. I expect it. I'd be surprised if you weren't angry. I might have to talk to Cullen. Yes, I said. You'll have to. He'll be disappointed. This is my family, not his. You are my wife, not his, and your mom and dad. She interrupted me. I've already settled everything. Are you sure? Yes. What about your brother Stephen? She said, I'll take care of it. I said, great. I'll call Dr. Whiting and pay all the remaining legal fees. Then she finished. You never... I stopped her. No, never. You can count on it. I took her hand in mine. It's time to start again. We went upstairs to our bed. A few weeks later, our 5th child came into the world, a little girl. We named her Mary Elizabeth, after the girl who was canonized for her qualities of forgiveness and the mother of John the Baptist. Of course, I love all my children, but I would be a liar if I didn't admit that Mary Elizabeth holds a special place in my heart. As for Marsha and me, it was still difficult for her. I wasn't just some guy she married. I was her prince on a white horse. I broke a lot more than a candy bowl. It's been a while and we're still working on it, but we have kids, and most importantly, we have each other. What about me? Oh, yeah. What did I need to do? I needed to stand up and be a man. I had to defend my territory and stand or fall based on what I wanted and what I believed. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about courage. There are different types of courage. A policeman risks his life when he goes out on the street to catch criminals. A fireman rushes into a burning building to save a helpless child. The soldier puts on his uniform and goes to war. Well, I've never thrown myself into a burning building. I have never worn a uniform of any kind. I've never even shot a shotgun or pistol, not even hunting. But still, I had to take a stand. Was I scared? You could say. But I had to risk everything to achieve everything, and I won. But I was the lucky one. I had a wife who loved me. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.